Hi Libra. So I almost didn't take my hair down, and then I was like, no, it's gonna turn into like a gimmick then. Like, how come every time in our readings your hair has to be up? Anyway, here we are. I have something really profound to share with you, and I'm really excited about it. But I'm a little bit scared because I don't know how you're gonna take it. So let's just say, because you are ruled by Venus, I have had a look at your chart, but I will let the cards dictate what comes out, and then we'll see. We'll see if what I need to tell you finds its way. Okay. Yeah. 7 of Wands. Okay, then a bunch of cards all at once. Page of Cups. 7 of Swords. Like the 7 of Wands. The Magician. We're getting right into this reading. That's awesome. I've been shuffling for so long with a lot of the signs, but I think that you guys were very ready for your reading, because I think last month's reading was helpful, but it's like last month's reading was like step 1. You know, and when you master step 1, or you feel really good about step 1 as an air sign, you're like really impatient for step 2. You're like, okay, got it, did it. Now what? So here we are. Let's see. The Star. I'm going to show you all of these together, but I don't want you to be sitting there in suspense while I talk to you a little bit. The Empress. Actually, let's do it the other way. Let's look at the cards, and then the outcome card is the Three of Pentacles. So let's look at these cards, and then after that, we'll talk a little bit. Okay? I'm just going to move my stuff out of the way. I have a lot of stuff out. I made some notes about what I wanted to speak to you guys about. So let's take a look here. All right. Bring some light in. So, 7 of Wands, Page of Cups, 7 of Swords, the Magician, the Star, the Empress, and the Three of Pentacles. What does it mean? Well, let's get the obvious stuff out of the way. If you've got a water sign in your life, especially if it's someone who has an ascending water, and that person you feel is lying to you, there is a very good chance that they are. The other obvious would be if you have a earth sign female in your life, and you feel as if this person is very stable and would be the fulfillment of your Libran need for balance, dreams, and all that you would hope for, then you are right. What else? If you are currently behaving as if it's all right, but you know it's not. That's there as well. When you want this, and you are, take heart, Libra, you are heading this way. You're heading towards a very earthy, this is the bottom of the deck. This is a card of things coming to fruition and completion, but also a card of stability, like we've talked about, the well-oiled machine. The sort of relationship that Libras really appreciate. And the environment in which Libra thrives. However, this mendacity that's made its way into your life, these people that you have let into your life that lie to you, and you know that they're not being good to you, okay? I said I wouldn't bring it up unless the cards showed it, but the cards are like really obviously showing it, so now I'm going to bring it up, okay? You've got to wonder, Libra, why this pattern over and over again. And I see you coming out of it and heading towards a much more positive self-image as well as a much more positive relationship. But this card has come up in terms of self-image a few times this month, or for April, I mean. You're heading towards and would like and are aspiring to this much more earthy sort of sensibility and stability. Very different than what Libras are able to accomplish. Note how I phrased that. Not very different from what Libras want. No, it's very close to what Libras want. But it is not always easy for them to accomplish this without an earthy anchor. And if you choose, instead of an earthy anchor and a pretty solid material-based, thing, instead if you choose this mendacious person who is deceptive and is lying to you, right? Like we've talked about how the magician is someone who is showing you one thing but is in fact doing quite another. Someone whose job is to be duplicitous, therefore implying somehow that to have a natural inclination for this job, one would have to be inherently duplicitous, perhaps. Excuse me, that may be absurdist logic following to its absurd end, but you know what I mean. To be a great magician, to be a great actor, one must have the ability to tell a lie as if it were a truth. If you're dealing with someone who can lie the way they can breathe, especially, and I'm not picking on you here if you're a water sign watching for a Libra, especially if this person is a Cancer, because Cancers have been really, really devious. No, not devious. That's not the right word. Just duplicitous. They've just been dishonest. Not devious. Never devious. Just dishonest. But it could very easily be a Piscean or a Scorpio. Scorpios are really going through their own thing right now. So if it is a Scorpio, then they're not exactly lying to you as much as they're lying to themselves. Not to make excuses for them, but... And then let's look at this, because there's these two sevens here, right? So the Seven of Wands and the Seven of Swords. Now, you know that the way I always read these is that when we have this double number, it's because we have a choice. And with everything going on in terms of the Venus retrograde and then later the Mercury retrograde, both of these things are going to affect you no matter what. Venus just because it rules you, and then Mercury because you're a communicative air sign. And you need Mercury to be direct, as not as much as, for example, a Gemini would be, but you need it more than the other signs do. We need it more. So, with everything that's going on here, you are being presented with an opportunity to dig yourself out of this hole, okay, if you'd like. Now, digging yourself out of this hole is not victory. Do not confuse the two. I'm not saying you're going to leave this person behind or come to some sort of realization about this person, and then all of a sudden you'll be like, aha, here. There's a reason this is at the bottom of the deck, and there's a reason this is at the end of the reading. You're not going to go from realizing this, you're not going to all of a sudden be here. You'll just be here. And where is here? What's this guy doing? He's got 2 different shoes on, and he's a mess. And he's, like, in no way done fighting these people. He's just found, like, a higher cliff. They're still coming for him. He's still fighting them. They're still fighting him. Nothing is for sure. In the I Ching, the way this is often described is the hexagram related to easy progress. And one of the changing lines for that hexagram is that, like the early morning light, be careful when things are starting to go a bit in your favor. Because like the early morning light, it can very, very easily be snuffed out by just a little bit of fog. Because it hasn't quite gained strength yet, right? So this is not a card of feeling better or victory as much as it is you're on your way, you've reached some sort of plateau perhaps of understanding, maybe not enough to get rid of this person, but enough to realize that they're not enough to like see the truth of what they're really like and what they've been doing for a while. That's not victory, but it's better than being completely delusional, and it is a step in the right direction. Now let's take some more steps in the right direction. I want to talk about these 2 cards, this 7 of Swords and the Magician, because the choice you're being asked to make here is to either find this higher ground and work towards actively warding off these negative influences so you can focus on what you really, really, really want, which I don't think you're in touch with at all. Therefore, having this future that looks really, really good. There's something that needs to be discussed about why this 7 of Swords and the Magician keeps coming up again and again. And it is a little bit touchy, and I have reservations about discussing it. But you've had a look at the cards, you know what the reading looks like, so let's talk about it because I think it's important. All right? But I think maybe you should look at me because you're Libras and it'll take the sting out of it. So, what am I talking about? Well, I've been thinking about something. So, you guys are scales, right? And scales are about evening things out, and scales are associated with justice, right? You weigh things out, and the fair is what is decided and carried out. Okay? Got it. Now, when something is fair, it is by nature dual. You are acquiescing to the duality of that thing, let's say, okay? Because to say that something is fair or right, or to say that someone is innocent, is to imply that also that someone could be guilty, or that something could be wrong or unfair. So by naming a thing, you also define and create the existence of its opposite, okay? So this is the nature of duality. This is the nature of our existence. Our existence is rooted in duality. What we consider God is the concept of the non-dual. So that which is beyond good and evil, okay? Now, as a Libra, you are definitely attuned to the duality. You live with that duality for the obvious reasons of just having, 2 scales. Okay? Good. And everyone has their version of this that they do. Everyone has their version of the duality, okay? But you guys have a very pronounced version, and that's why you guys are associated with the Justice card, and that's why the scales and blah, 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 because you have a keen sense of right and wrong and the ability to mitigate that with compassion and diplomacy and a sincere goodwill towards people. It's not something forced, although at times it can be artificial and it can mask a deeper pain. The place where the impulse comes from to help and be social and be loving and be integral parts of society, and making it work and making it move. The impetus or the place that that comes from within you is very pure, never false, never fake. Can that power or that talent then be expressed in a way that can be misconstrued as fake? Sure, because not everyone is as diplomatic as you are. People who trip over their words, like Geminis during retrograde shadows, perhaps would think that you're a little too smooth or a little, I actually wouldn't, I shouldn't give myself as an example, but someone who is clumsy and has trouble, for example, the sign right before you, right? So Virgos have a lot of trouble articulating their feelings, and the sign right before us always lacks what we have. Just like we lack what, or you in this case would lack what the sign in front of you has. Do you understand? So Virgos lack the ability to articulate themselves and to articulate, not themselves, they're very good at that, but to articulate what's going on within them and convey it in a diplomatic way. They're very good at articulating it, but it's not diplomatic. It's like, it like cuts like knives, where you guys are like honey, and you get very different reactions based on that. So all of that is to say that you have a kindness that comes with your power and your ability to discern between right and wrong, good and bad. Now that's all the sugar. I'm not gonna, that's the sugar. I gave you the sugar because like you needed something, because now what I'm gonna tell you is gonna like upset you a little bit. And it's alright, but here's what it is. When it's good and bad, when there's good and bad, right? And you guys think this way about a lot of stuff because you're scales. You can't help it. So when it's good and bad, then when there's bad, there's also a victim. And as long as like the person who did the wrong thing or the bad guy or the thing that happened, or every time you weigh these scales, the bad one is there, then without realizing it, you can train yourself into a sense of victimhood. I'm not saying you guys all act like victims, not at all. You know that I like really love you guys. I'm sorry, I'm playing with my hair. It's because I'm nervous. Last night I was doing the Aries reading and I could tell that I was playing with my hair like the whole time. And then I realized that it was because I was telling this story that still actually kind of scares me. And I think that it was bothering me to be back there in that moment telling it, and so it helped me to like pet my hair. So, oh, that's so cute. There's pigeons hanging out across the street. Okay, so I'm not saying you guys act like victims. I'm saying that in your head you can become the victim by default. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm going to give you an example that will also perhaps rub you the wrong way, but I really don't mean for it to. And I'm really sorry. Like I'm not trying to, but it's just the best example I can think of, okay? So the concept that I'm bringing up to you is based in Jungian psychology, Carl Jung. And a lot of his work was taken in the 1920s and applied behavioral psychology was really looked into, and how people react to things and what makes people behave in certain ways was starting to be looked at, and in a really, for the first time, as like this fascinating thing. And we had all this data we could crunch. We had all these people who had dreams and experiences and psychic right? There was all this stuff that we could look at and say, okay, there's something bigger going on here. And we started talking about things like the greater subconscious, and perhaps maybe in our back brain we're all connected, and perhaps we're all pulling from one source, and perhaps that's what channeling is. And okay, so this sort of thing. So this is happening in the 20s. Now in the 20s is when they figure out, through studying behavioral psychology, they figure out that there's always going to be a good guy and a bad guy. Because what we're actually playing out on, I was just thinking if I should take it there, but you should watch the holographic universe on my other channel if you don't understand what I'm about to say. The good guy, bad guy thing is just it's reflective of the larger concept, the Jungian concept of the soul versus the ego. It's macro and micro, actually. It's very interesting. It's genius. So the soul versus the ego gets played out. Let's take it just in context of Libra. As you, the soul, right? And then there's people out there just acting from their egos and being idiots and being not diplomatic and being bad guys and being crude and being not beautiful and ugly and Now, you guys do that, okay? Now here's the issue that I'm taking with it. No, I shouldn't have phrased it that way. Here is my insight into that. When you view the world that way without realizing it, you put yourself in the character of the victim, you cast yourself as the victim in that dynamic every time you view something that way. And it's not a coincidence that this was being studied in behavioral psychology in the 20s, and then by the 30s we had the Third Reich enacting this sort of psychology on people and getting millions and millions of people to be okay with things that otherwise would be too horrific to accept. And the way that I always like to explain it, especially when I'm lecturing about it, is, the Third Reich wasn't necessarily comprised so much of the soldiers and the tanks and the U-boats and the military and that entire bureaucracy, that bizarre bureaucracy that was based in a lot of it was based in the occult. But the Third Reich mainly comprised of all those really good people who were taught that they were the good guys and these other people were the bad guys. And through, dehumanizing, demoralizing the Jews and really robbing them, demonizing them in the media, they were able to create this dynamic where the Europeans, because it wasn't just Germans, the Europeans were the good guys and the Jews were the bad guys. And right there you see what I'm getting at, is that as soon as you play that dynamic out, and did I take it to its most extreme to illustrate my point? Absolutely. Am I saying that you guys are Nazis? Or no, God, no. God, no. That's why I'm like really tiptoeing, because it's such a great way to explain it, but I don't want you to take it the wrong way, okay? So it's to illustrate that when you live from that dynamic and when your thought process is filtered through this binary, yes, no, good guy, bad guy. Because here's the thing, you can be binary and not be good guy, bad guy. Let's get to the point. The point is, you get it. You get what I'm trying to say. Okay, great. Awesome. So let's not make ourselves the victim. Can you be binary without being bad guy victim? Of course you can. You can be binary in many, many other ways instead of good, bad, right, wrong, right? It doesn't always have to be. You can do the bigger work of, instead of reflecting that out to your outside world as good and bad, you could do the larger work of integrating your own shadow side, integrating that part of you that is still dual, that is longing to be non-dual. Okay. A very good example of someone who's integrated their shadow side is me. I learned about this concept in my first year of college, and it completely blew my mind. I couldn't believe that I hadn't heard of it before. That really bothered me that I hadn't heard of it before, actually, because I went to a really, really, really good school, and like that, you know, gave me pause. I was like, oh wow, that's disturbing. I should have known about this. But as soon as I learned about Jungian psychology, philosophy, psychoanalysis, the shadow side, I began to really identify with a lot of the dream imagery that was used when he was talking about when someone's shadow side is really angry with them and wants to be integrated, and the way that the shadow side then behaves, and the way your dreams then, the tone your dreams take on, all this, because there is this part of you, this anima in you, this, this battle between the soul and the ego, and they both want equal footing. And if we live too much from what society wants from us, this shadow side within us, which is all, raw desire and want and need and instant, give it to me, and it gets frustrated. And if it gets too frustrated, it gets angry. I wrote a paper in college, actually, that same year, my freshman year, that is actually kind of sweet. I made the professor a tape of music, and I did the paper on the shadow side and how different musicians exhibited their need to integrate their shadow side and their struggle with not being able to do so, and how it was so obviously expressed in certain people's music. And so I did the paper on the different songs by the different artists, and going and breaking down the songs and like showing how it was obviously about this psychoanalytic process that Jung talks about, and just being able to really like as if they had read Jung and then written the songs, right? And then just to further illustrate the point, I had made her a tape. 39 years old. What are you going to do? I'd made her a tape of the songs that went, or was it a CD? I think it was a CD. No, it was a CD. I made her a CD of the songs that I had talked about in the paper. And so during the course of doing that paper and doing all this, it was a research paper. I had really done the work and had cathartic experiences through that busy work, of integrating my own shadow side. I mean, the process would continue for years, but that was the catalyst. And a few weeks after we handed in our papers, I realized that I hadn't gotten my paper back. And so I asked her about it, and she was like, oh yeah, no, I meant to tell you that I'm not actually giving your paper back. And I was like, okay, like, I'm so sorry. I know it's kind of unconventional that I did it on like music and like Sarah McLachlan. I don't know, And she was like, no, it's incredible. Like, I've actually given it over to the psychology department. So here's what I think. I think that what happens within Libras is that the soul ego struggle is so pronounced because your external shell is so flawless that the soul, okay, so the way that Jung puts it is that the more flawless the persona, the more unpleasant the shadow. One of the works of literature that you can look at, excuse me. Y'all make me nervous, yo. Because I don't want to hurt your feelings. I also don't want to get lip gloss on my water bottle. It's for the pH. I drink it for the pH. So the more flawless the exterior, the more unpleasant the shadow. So I would posit then that a Libra, because they have such a sophisticated, flawless exterior, that the shadow must be quite something. And I know this. I'll give you the example again of my gorgeous, flawless, like the man is perfect looking, that the male model that I know that's a Libra. Just, and like raised with, I think like he comes from a lot of money, so he was already like flawless in all those things that he was sent away to learn and know how to do really well in terms of manners and clothing and dressing and, you know, texture and food and wine and, you know, being able to walk into like Michelin starred restaurants and like put his elbows on the table and, you know, talk shit to the chef and like very cultured and sophisticated before ever the beauty was noticed from the beginning, but before the beauty became a commodity, right? Before he like started making money off his looks. So really the quintessential Libra, very much like that Kim Kardashian quintessential Libra, someone who is like making money off of just the flawlessness of their presentation. And, you know, he really holds true to that Jungian theory of the shadow being just as pronouncedly primal as opposed to sophisticated, because it's like flipping a switch, you know? It's like sophisticated, you know, successful, high fashion, and then like crazy rock star, everything you can imagine, like get ugly with it. Like, are you sleeping in the tub? What are you covered in that you, what, you know, like you just, so when one has such a beautiful exterior and we can then, if we are going by this theory that then the shadow is considerably ugly, right? If we're just proportionally. And if we don't integrate that, and if we don't look at it, and if we deny it, and if we just don't even acknowledge that that's a part of us, then I believe that we begin to externalize it and see it in the outside world. Then, because we don't accept the monster within us, we begin to see the monster everywhere else and the bad guy everywhere else, because we can't come to terms with the fact that the monster is within us. This is the difference then between Libras and Geminis. Geminis like, the monster within me, that would be me. Nice to meet you. What's the problem? What do you need? You know what I mean? And you guys are like, monster, no monster. Oh, you know, anyone who's been in a bed with you is like, oh, why are you clutching your pearls for who? You know, you are a freak. You know what I mean? So when you don't integrate that part of you, when you don't let that part of you shine, when you don't let that part of you have the floor, then I think you attract monsters in your externality, sure, because that energy's got to go somewhere. You know what I mean? So if you find yourself stuck in these cycles of attracting people who are truly monstrous, I need you to look at what part of you are not willing to get comfortable with, because you're pushing that out of you and into the energy around you, and then it's doubling back to you as these people who frankly don't deserve you. You're too beautiful for this. You're too good for this. You don't have to deal with some, you know, don't know what they want, wishy-washy, come and go, like, for what? You're flawless. You're gorgeous. You're smart. You're an air sign, for God's sake. Like, what do you don't need this. And that's what I think that the star card is saying to you. You know, I'm not trying to yell at you, but like, if you could have anything you want, is this what you want? Trust me, it's not what you want. You know what you want? You want someone who's going to adore you and you know, bring you flowers and like you shouldn't have to be wondering if somebody likes you. And I think that you guys end up in that situation because of what I just described in great detail. So I'm not going to go into it again because I realize that sometimes I'm redundant. When I care about someone, I say the same thing over and over again because that's what my mom does to me and it drives me crazy. So I'm not going to do it to you. If you want to hear a funny story about haunted houses, completely off topic, watch the Aries reading because the story is hilarious. What else? So that's your reading, okay? Now, oh, by the way, this is cashmere and it's sleeveless and it's from J. Crew and it's like absolutely my favorite thing in the whole world to wear because I just think it's like effortlessly chic and that's why I wore it for you guys. Because I love you and you're fantastic. And it's so mean because I was just doing the Taurus video not last night. Was it last night? Yesterday. And I was talking to them about how they need to like go ask somebody to help them with their style. And I tried to do it so nicely and some people still got mad. They're like, you're just a hating bitch because you're a Gemini. Anyway, so that's your reading. I hope you liked it. You have a really, really good time coming up. But okay, I'm glad I didn't go because there's something else I have to tell you. I can't just leave you with that. So, okay, Umber, now you explained how we get here. Now, how do we get from here? Ooh, I'm so glad I didn't end that reading. Good thing I took notes. How do we get from here to where we want to go, to here? Right. Good point. Good question. I think I could hear you guys collectively being like, ooh, no, don't do that. Wait a minute. Sorry. You can't leave us like that. Okay. Yes, this is how you get there. I figured that out too. Okay, this is how you get there. What would you have to do to transcend that good guy, bad guy thing? What would you have to do to be able to integrate the shadow side? What would it require of a person? Bravery. Courage. But what's that? I mean, yeah, we know what those words mean. We use them fairly often. But what is that? What is that based on? Both of those things are based on trust. Trust in yourself, trust in the universe or God or whatever you believe in, or your ancestors or your mother's prayers or your own ability or the cycles or seasons of the cosmos. They depend on trust. You guys don't really trust people. I mean, it's okay by me. It's really easy for me to be friends with you guys because I don't take that personal, you know? Because, like, you know, Gemini, you guys don't trust people because you're a bit emotionally cynical. We don't trust people because we're us. But you don't trust. Emotionally, you have a really hard time trusting, yeah? But there's no way to get past this duality if you don't. There's no way to get past the good guys and the bad guys. Like I was watching how Kim Kardashian was talking about how she got robbed. And you know, the good guys and the bad guys, it was like full on display. They're the good guys and they're the bad guys and she was the good guy and she was the victim and she can't get out of that cycle of, you know, feeling that way. But I would posit that she even got into that situation because she already felt that way and was already in that cycle and was prone to hyper sensitivity and emotional, right? Like unease, right? Anxiety. So what that is a lack of trust. What that implies is a lack of trust. A lack of trust that you could handle a situation, a lack of trust that in things happening for the right reasons, right? There's a lot. And when that becomes super pronounced, I think the way that shows up in your life is something like that, where then, you know, if you keep putting out to the universe, I don't trust you, I don't trust you, I don't trust you, it's not personal, but that's exactly what you're going to get back is reasons not to trust it, because that's all you're giving out. And all it can give you, all this machine can give you is what you give out. So if you're, through your anxiety and your inability to emotionally open up to people, constantly giving out the message, I don't trust you, I don't trust you, then the universe will give you back, well, here's more reasons not to trust me. You know, let me put you in more and more terrifying situations because you obviously, this is what you want, because all I can do is generate back to you what you give me, right? So if you want to get past this, you've got to trust people and you've got to open up to people and you've got to trust perhaps the shadow side version of yourself that is trying to speak to you, and it's trying to tell you that you don't have to be flawless and then a rock star, you know, like strung out rock star, like in the tub. There is a way to mitigate this and find a middle ground where you can integrate and you can be a more three-dimensional person instead of just this really gorgeous facade that gets through it and gets it done, but then is coming home to an emptiness and a feeling of victimhood, which sucks, because why should you feel that way? You're a cardinal sign and you're wonderful and you're amazing. Is that too hard? I try. Yo, I really try with you guys. It's like amazing to me. I'm surprised in myself. Because, like, I don't. I'll just be like, look, this is what it is. And people be like, I was doing a reading, someone was like, that's a little harsh. I was like, okay. Like, what do you want me, but with you guys. Okay, so now that we're done, now that you know, you got to trust people. And this month this month is going to push you to trust people, especially towards the end of the month. It's going to test you. And if you want to get through this and not have this same cycle come back into your life, stop putting it out there. All right, now we're done. So I'll be in San Francisco the 1st to the 8th, in LA from the 8th to the 12th, back in San Francisco from the 12th to the 18th. We doing it. I have very few slots left in terms of in-person readings. If you would like one for any of those dates, please reach out to me. Also, I'll be doing readings in New York from April 20th to May 1st. And I will be doing readings in Europe, mainly Scandinavia, from May through into August. So if you've got a group of people in London, for example, like people were really bummed that I couldn't make it to London in April. If you get a group of people together, I will come to London for a weekend and do readings, absolutely. But you guys got to set it up because that's not my bag. All right? Also, good news, fun news. I was so into doing these readings and getting them done and so feeling like hyped and a little bit pressured, Scorpio, that I hadn't checked my email in a couple of days, and it turns out that Refinery 29 featured yours truly, us as a channel, featured the Quietest Revolution on their site, and we're the third ones out of YouTube astrologers. So not bad for 7 months. It's all because of you guys, no doubt whatsoever. Like I said, it's our channel, it's our movement, it's our revolution. If you haven't watched the Holographic Universe video on the other channel is called Strange Ramblings, check it out because you'll have a better understanding of why I'm calling it our revolution. So I'm on the Refinery blog right now. And then on Monday, April 3rd, I'll be on their Snapchat. So that's cool beans. And then I have a book coming out in the spring called The Tarot of Inner Work. And basically it's about how you can use the archetypes illustrated in tarot to facilitate an inner work, and then some healing modalities that I've come across or that I've created over the years to help people with their different programming, their faulty programming, and how to facilitate fundamental change, right? Not something that lasts a few weeks and then you go back to the way you used to be. And also not something that's based in belief. Because although this whole metaphysical, you got to believe it before you see it, jam, I'm just a much more scientific person. And for me, the ideas of neuroplasticity, neural hacking, really getting into the gray matter of the brain and changing things where the belief, changing the physiology of where the beliefs come from, as opposed to trying to make yourself believe something. That's what the book will focus on. The book will be out in the spring. It will be available as an ebook and as an audiobook that I will narrate, but it will also be available as a beautiful hardcover if you so choose, or if you so desire to have that. The best way to keep in touch with me about the book and read excerpts from what it's going to be about, and also to just get in touch with me if you want to speak to me or just know what's going on in my life, is Instagram at Amber Khan. Twitter is fun. If you actually want to talk to me, that's the easiest place to talk to me, is Twitter. That's also at Amber Khan. And then if you want to have a reading, I'll leave my email address below. But the easiest way to get a reading is to go to the Facebook page, which is linked in the channel art at the top of the page here. If you click on the Facebook page link, the Facebook page has a shop. In the shop, you can just go and pick the product and pay for it through Facebook, and it's all like safe and transaction, everything, instead of like emailing me, going through that, me sending you the PayPal links, you do like, it's just much easier. And if you're crunched for time, or if you just need to get through to me because I get thousands of emails, then that would be the way to do it. Is that it? I love you guys. I had so many beautiful readings with you guys this past month. I met a couple of you, made some new friends. Really, it's been a beautiful, beautiful Libra month. I'm so grateful for you guys. And listen to what I said here, because I think it'll help you if you give it a little thought. Okay? I'll see you in May.